Hello and welcome to From the Basement Up. I'm Michelle Brandress, and today I will be speaking with Hayley Stevens, owner of the Saratoga Tea and Honey Company. It is located in the charming town of Saratoga Springs. The Tea and Honey store provides a retreat for people wanting to learn brewing techniques and new teas at the tea bar. There is also a tasting room of floral and infused honey from around the world. The group at the Saratoga Tea and Honey Company are looking forward to sharing the history and welcoming you to their store either online or at the local tea bar. Hello, Hayley, and thank you for joining us here on From the Basement Up.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure.
Yes, and I have to say, just if people do go to YouTube and look at the video, I love Hayley. I love your background. That's exactly what I want everybody to see.
It's a very honest background.
Awesome. It's perfect. So I would love for you to give an intro about yourself and then about the Saratoga Tea and Honey Company.
Sure. Okay. So, an intro about myself. I have a culinary background. So I went to culinary school after college, in Italy, and I ended up working, several years in Italy in restaurants and, had a serious, espresso addiction because I don't smoke cigarettes, and everybody who was in the kitchen would take breaks and smoke cigarettes, especially I was working with all men. So they were just, doing their own thing. And I was working super hard trying to prove myself and was like, why don't I get breaks? So started drinking too much coffee. Anyway, I moved to New York City after that experience. I got a job in a culinary school as a teacher in the Italian program, the French Culinary Institute. And I was going through this horrible headaches and withdrawal, coffee withdrawal. And so my colleague said, why don't you go check out this tea pop-up that's around the bend? And that's sort of where my love of tea was born. And then the idea started to stew of like, okay, well, I can still work in food and have a really nice lifestyle, maybe better work-life balance outside of the kitchen, and involve my friends, my family, my loved ones. And so I started to sort of paint the idyllic picture of what it would be like to have my own business and to be in the Zen world of tea. Saratoga Tea and Honey, to answer your second question, started 7 years ago. And when we opened, I was partnered with Clinton Barb Braidwood of Saratoga Olive Oil Company. And we sort of brought together two ideas, my idea of a tea shop and tea bar and community space, and their idea of a honey tasting room, a discovery room, just like they have for extra virgin olive oil and balsamic vinegar, and apply that. And so we sort of married those two ideas together. And so today, when you come into the store, you'll experience a tea bar in the front, and then all things tea as you walk through, loose leaf teas. And then in the back, we have the beautiful honey tasting room.
So I love how you call it the discovery room. I'm local to the Saratoga area, and this is a favorite. It's like a fan favorite on Broadway, and kids love going in there and going into the discovery room. So,
Yeah.
and tasting all the different honeys, the infused honeys. And I think that you're creating future tea drinkers from that discovery room, definitely. And I love how you have the bar. It's set up and it's so charming and you can sit down. Tea for me, I find it a little intimidating. I do, because there's so much to it and there's so much history. There's different ways to brew it. How often do you do lessons, or how often do you have people come in and learn?
Okay, I'm so excited that you asked that question. And I'm so excited that I'm not excited that you're overwhelmed by tea, because all I want to say to you, Michelle, is it's just leaves and water. But there is, like you said, what you said gives weight to what traditional tea is, because you're speaking to traditional tea. And that's like this whole wonderful world of, leaves that come from different countries, different cultures, different varietals. So just like wine, or just like coffee, for people who are into coffee, or cacao beans if they're into cacao, you have this whole world to explore. So we do tea classes, and we do them at the bar. We have 8 seats at our bar, and we have a couple tea classes coming up, and one is focused on traditional tea, which you should be my guest, Michelle, because we will do white, green, oolong, aged, and black tea, and discover different ways of brewing the teas. We also have an herbal class coming up, so that's not coming from the tea plant, so herbs and the health benefits of herbs, but that class is full. And but we plan to offer more after the holiday season.
You must be getting a demand from the community asking for these. How often do you do it by demand, or is it just like every quarter you set up a couple classes?
We tend to have like a fall, winter, spring session, sort of skip summer because you know about summers in Saratoga. So and we have to do them when we're closed.
Okay.
So we try to offer different classes and kind of see what the reaction is. And herbals have been very popular lately. And traditional tea, it's always really nice to do one traditional tea each sort of session. But we also offer private classes to people. So if there was someone coming to town with, you know, we've done bachelorette parties, couple tea tastings. And we can arrange to do sort of customized experiences because that could be really anything. Yeah.
I love that. Now, do you also, because your honeys, you walk back there, how many honeys do you have?
I think right now we have 18.
Okay. And they're amazing. They're so good. So do you do like a honey tea pairing class?
So we have done that, yes, as well. We've done that as well. And we've done that. We actually have done that. It's really popular for like, we did them for a couple bachelorette parties, like just like groups that want to have fun, you know, do something really different. That's a really wonderful, yes.
How long are the classes?
They generally are an hour and a half to 2 hours long, depending on the content.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it depends on how many people, like if they're really engaged and asking a lot of questions too, because then it could be longer.
Yeah. Okay. Now I have so many questions about the actual tea, but I want to kind of start off with just the nucleus of the idea. Like, how did you come up with a tea bar? Have you ever seen something like that?
When we were opening, we did a bunch of research on other tea companies, and we're looking at like Samovar in San Francisco and their sort of tea setup. I never went there, so I actually am not 100% sure if they have a tea bar, but the way that they displayed how they brewed the tea and displayed their bar, they might have a standing bar because we wanted to have people experience the product.
Okay. And sit and enjoy and talk and discuss.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
It's brilliant. And I went in there to get a gift and I'm sitting here looking at the tea bar. I'm like, this is such a smart idea. And of course, I'm one of those people who I'm jumping in and out and I'm always running to the next thing. But I have mentioned to my girlfriends, because as sometimes you just don't want to go have a glass of wine. You want to go have a glass of something else, of tea or whatever. So it's perfect. It's such a great idea. So I'm just curious, the different teas, how do you learn that? Because this, centuries of information. So how did you go about going through that process?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's one tea at a time, tasting a lot of tea, researching teas, sort of understand. Well, the first was like the general understanding of like, what are the classics of tea? And like, we have to have a strong portfolio of the classics of traditional tea. And then beyond that, what are some more niche things that are happening? In Taiwan, there's a lot of interesting, like experimentation with hybrids of tea cultivars and, producing kind of really unique things. So what's going on over there? What's available? What tastes good, what re-steeps well, what has a story, from a producer that's interesting or just like you feel connected to. I guess first understanding the basics of like what makes tea green, like a green tea, what makes a black tea, etc. And then expanding upon that. It's a lifetime journey of discovery because there's so many teas out there and it's endless. And it's like that with wine, right? It's like you have maybe sometimes your favorites, but seasonally you'll change based on the weather and how, the cool mornings right now in the fall, it's really nice to have something like roasty and like a roasty oolong or maybe a Chinese green tea as opposed to like a Japanese green tea, which tends to be more spring to me. So it's just really fun to like, I don't know, discover.
So I love this idea. And I will admit, my husband has the coffee pot filled when I walk downstairs. It's just so easy. But I've noticed as I'm getting older, I don't think coffee likes me anymore. It's kind of, kicking me out. Many years ago, I lived in Seattle and I drank tea until I got there. And then I got into coffee. And I ended up, when I was pregnant, went back to herbal teas and was drinking teas again. I always feel better with tea. And I don't know, I've gotten lazy. So I need to come in and find an easy routine that I can handle. And then I'm also wondering, like, so you have teas from around the world. So does that mean you get to travel around the world and see how they're harvested? Okay. That's so cool.
Yes. So we haven't done that in, let's see, it was the last time we did that was 2019, so before COVID. We went to Vietnam and visited the cooperative where we get our Vietnamese green tea, which was an amazing experience. It was a woman-run cooperative. It was everything about that experience. I have some pictures on the wall because yeah, it was just one of those really special life experiences. And then we went to northern Thailand, where they have a community of people that have emigrated from Yunnan, China, who are producing tea in northern Thailand. So we went there to buy tea, and we also visited Taiwan and kind of traveled around and visited some of the producers that we already sell tea from, and saw some new producers of Oriental Beauty in the north of Taiwan. So that was really, really nice.
That is so cool. That is so neat. And
Really.
I'm just curious, how did you even find out where to go?
Well, so I mean, Thailand was like blind sort of, we know they produce tea there, let's go check it out. And I guess Taiwan is sort of similar, except for I was with my good friend. He was actually he has a company in pursuit of tea. His name's Sebastian, and he was the one who he owned the tea shop in New York City that I started going to when I was working in New York. So, and it's funny to think, like, at that time period, I'd go in there and he'd say, "Oh, Hayley, like, I just got back from Darjeeling. Would you like to try this?" And I'd go and get my matcha, and it was really an honor to go with him on this journey. So, yeah.
Now, as far as the honey goes, is it the same thing where you're traveling around tasting the honey, or are you able to go to one place and kind of figure out what type of honey you want to purchase for the store?
So basically, for the honey, it's a little more simple in that the varietals will look for a specific varietal. So we said, okay, we really want sourwood and Tupelo. So we want to find a producer in the South that makes that honey. So then you start to do research, internet research, phone calls, trying to find somebody who produces enough honey to supply us a good amount to support the store. And then you ask for samples, and you kind of go for their pricing, etc. And then you arrange shipment. So that it's really interesting because our portfolio, just like with our herbal teas, it really expands based on what people suggest as well. So they bring to our attention maybe a really unique variety that we then go and explore and trying to find so that you have a spectrum of flavors when it comes to honey: colors, flavors, consistencies. Yeah. And then the herbal blends are like that as well. Like, people come in asking for something specific, like, oh, I need something for inflammation, or I need something for pregnancy, or and so that's really helped us develop our collection.
So this year, this is a little bit off topic, but I'm kind of a hobbyist. I have my first beehive this year.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, it's hard work. It is so hard.
Yeah, it's hard work.
There's just so much to learn. There's so much going on. Do you find that it's easier to pair honeys with some of the herbal teas more than the traditional tea?
I think that some of the stronger honeys, which tend to be darker honeys, pair really well with black tea or dark oolong tea.
Okay.
But herbals, yes. I mean, really the alfalfa, the wildflower, the orange blossom, the lavender, any of those do really, really nicely. It's really what you like, what honey you like and what herbal you like. But we do have fun pairing for customers.
Your experience with the New York store kind of led you down this path. And yes. When you came here to Saratoga, how long were you in the Saratoga area before you started your own store?
So 3 years.
3 years. And the whole time, were you going in your mind, how do I do this? Were you waiting for a place on Broadway? And just so everybody knows, Saratoga Springs has the cutest main street.
So I waited because I didn't have any retail experience.
Okay. So
I didn't feel confident I was backup house, really. I was, in the kitchen. So to be, public facing and inventory and, all the things that come with keep purchasing and inventory and all the details that come with keeping a shop, payroll, all that stuff. So I was really blessed. Clint and Barb hired me. And then I ended up being a manager for a few years for them. And when they hired me, I think in the interview, I told them, I said, I want to open a tea shop in Saratoga. And then maybe a little farther down the line, they said, oh yeah, we want to open a honey shop. And then, the conversation kind of trickled in and trickled out. And then eventually we thought the timing was right. And it's, I don't know, the conversations became more frequent, and I think they were at a point where they were ready to try something new. And I sort of had, I'd been their manager for several years. And then with the space was formerly the Symmetry Glass Gallery, which was here for 25 years. It was a really interesting space, nice and long, windows in the back, windows in the front, exposed brick. And then they had these cases where they had displays, like really interesting shaped cases that we sort of, opened up the space, and we couldn't believe how much space we had when we took them down. And then they had these beautiful, like, cut out light boxes where they had featured different pieces, which ended up being perfect for vintage teaware. So everything kind of was very fortunate.
Evolved perfectly.
Evolved. Yes, one step at a time. Very, very, yes, one step at a time. Yeah.
And that's something I always tell people too. It's like, I've been doing name bubbles for like 15 years, close to it. And it's just every day you just be consistent, just take those baby steps forward. And it's just one step at a time. And you're able to kind of evolve things and grow things over time.
Yes.
And your website is darling. I love it.
Thank you.
As far as like gift ideas, do you like for the holidays, what do you typically plan out for the holidays?
So we started planning for the holidays in the spring, and thinking about, what kind of new things we can offer, because of course you want to always offer something new. So this year we're doing some kind of package sets like tea for two, and the 4 seasons of tea and honey with tea and honey pairings, and the traditional sort of tea offerings with a traditional tea gaiwan, it's called, for brewing. So we've like changed up sort of our our preset packages, but there's so many different styles for brewing it, and everybody has their kind of preference, whether it's a modern, sleek, or it's traditional and vintage, or it's earthy, or it's traditional in the sense of, more Asian style. And there's so many things that you can embellish, that practice with, which is really interesting. So we have fun kind of playing for that, searching out new things and trying to offer.
I was also wondering, do you get requests for like birthday parties, like little tea parties for kids?
We do. Yes. And we really don't, unfortunately, because we have our set open hours. We're open 7 days a week. And so any of those extra events happen to have to happen outside of those hours.
When COVID hit, I mean, everything on Broadway closed down. How did you maneuver through that time? And I'm sorry, it was a hard time. Maybe I shouldn't bring it up.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's okay. I don't know. We were blessed because we were in the tea business and tea and honey, and so that was really comforting for people. Also, it's medicinal. So it's medicinal, it's comforting. You're home. Maybe people didn't have to be as caffeinated as they were when they were going out into the world. So tea or herbals were.
Did you find it, did it spike during that time?
So the business,
yes,
it completely changed over. So what was once in store went online.
Okay.
And we still had some staff here. We technically could have stayed open during lockdown because we were considered grocery, but we kept the door closed, and people who called in drinks or did in-store pickups, we would deliver to the door at that time. We made it.
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as the community, what do you think the response is? Like when you get people who come in, and I'm talking more locals, because I know people who aren't from Saratoga, our town expands it doubles in the summertime.
Yes.
But during the year, I have a child, so it's in his mind, it's just kind of part of the town. And I think it's, just going in with the honey and just having people respond to the bar and sitting down. Do you find that you've created kind of a community center in a way?
I'm so glad you asked that question, because that's my favorite part of it all. Yes, it's really wonderful because we are an alternative bar. We're a daytime bar. We're an alternative bar. Tea is still a social lubricant. It still is stimulating for conversation and for energy. And we have our set of repeat loveliest local customers. And sometimes it's just for a season. Sometimes for some reason or another, we'll be the place that someone frequents every day or on a regular basis. And then maybe things change for them in their life, and then we'll see them in another year or two. But we have these changing regular customers, and it's become a community, and you really, I think, feel that the strongest in the wintertime after the holiday season. You know, there'll be moments where you look around and you're like, wow, everyone at the tea bar here is a regular, and they all know each other. They generally are coming in on their own, which is just really wonderful. So yeah. And I have these like lovely little stories in my mind. It's like someday I should write them down of the people I've met and like their life situations and what brought them to the tea bar. And I don't know. And then you feel like at some point you send them off, you know? So it's been really, really great. Yeah.
With their medicinal lubricant, you send them out into the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's a good place to fall back on.
oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you see yourself opening a franchise in other areas, or are you happy with where you're at?
Yes, I'm happy with where I'm at. I feel like you do it once, you do it well. That's I'm speaking just for me, but like I do it once, I do it well. It has my energy here, it has my focus, and then you have essentially this in this time you can do online business and expand your online business, which is another great avenue for growth. And then of course, wholesale. So our wholesale is growing very organically, and that's really wonderful, like little subset of the business, and that's just fine for me and for the lifestyle. And I think for all people here, we love our little store.
Absolutely. Well, and I love that you talk about your energy, and that your energy is there at your store. And it's, people can feel that when they walk in. It's a special place. So a really, really nice statement to add in there. So what do you think is your favorite part of running your company?
I think it's the people. I think whether it's the people that the people that I get to see every day that are regulars, the staff. I love my staff. We have a lot of fun and there's a lot of joy in the shop every day. And I love that my parents are part of my business, and my sister as well, and my fiance. Everyone takes an active role and supports me, and that's it all right there. That's all. That's like the perfect combination of lifestyle and work.
It checked all your boxes.
It checked all my boxes.
That's what we're all working towards all the time.
Yes.
Hayley, I was also curious, when you're traveling and you're finding the tea, and I meant to ask this earlier, are you looking for organic teas? What is it that you're trying to find?
Yes. So a large majority of our traditional tea is organic. Not all are organic, and not all are organic, not maybe because they're practicing or because they're not practicing organic growing methods, but because it's very expensive to have an organic certification.
Okay.
So especially for smaller producers, that can be really difficult. So we'll put like organically produced, sort of, we're not organic certified, so we don't really have to worry about that labeling to pass that on. But we do note when we're confident that someone's using organic practices. It is tough because it is certainly a selling point for tea, that you can find that sometimes products, just like with any industry, the organic label can sell more than the quality of tea itself. Somebody like Sebastian from In Pursuit of Tea, or some of our friends up in Montreal who have a business, Camilla Sinensis, they have really strong and wonderful relationships with people that they've curated for a long time. It's a little bit different than doing business. It seems to me, at least, doing business in Asia has been. The relationships are really important, and you have to create, trust and create a relationship with the producers, because they don't necessarily think, at least the way I've seen it, is that they're not saying, oh, I just, you're like, I want to do your business, I want to buy your tea, but they have to really want to engage with you to sell their tea to you. They have options.
Interesting.
And for my predecessors, who I respect so much, they have a lot of really strong ties with their producers, and also are very involved in the tea production process, the experimental nature of tea, and also encouraging tea farmers to do different things to grow products they want to purchase. So I'm just a little player in this and still learning a lot about that. And I learn more every time I travel or, read about it. But we definitely, organic is a very serious thing. I feel the same way that you do. I really want to be, at least if it's not certified organic, I really want to be reassured that they're not using pesticides, or herbicides.
Have you found that it's difficult being a woman and forming these new relationships. Do you think that having, going over there with a friend who has had these established relationships has been helpful? Like what, or do you think it would not have been a problem?
I think experience really matters, especially when it comes to, knowing how much a product should cost and negotiating. So I went to Taiwan with my friend in tea, but I did Thailand on my own, and I did Vietnam. We were going to see the cooperative that we already purchased through, that was organized by our friends in Canada, and that was a woman-run cooperative. So I don't know yet. I don't have an analysis on that yet.
Okay.
These very different situations. Yes, and also the language is a barrier. So you miss out on things. I mean,
Yeah.
I actually studying Mandarin right now because I want to be like, I want to know what's going on, and I want to be able to communicate and talk for myself. But that's, that's a little bit of a long road. So yeah.
Well, Hayley, I love that attitude. It's so positive, and just the curiosity. You're such an interesting person. So I just tell like through the years of, okay, well, I'm going to learn Mandarin now. Okay, now I'm going to do this. Now I'm going to learn this.
Yeah.
And, that journey of life is that's what it's about. So it's amazing. Typically we're kind of winding down, but what was your biggest win, do you think, when you started your business? And, I typically go like back and forth, like, the biggest lesson, that or the biggest struggle, and then like maybe the biggest win where it was like that unexpected, bump or wind under your wings or that type of thing.
So far the business has been made up of like tiny little wins. And like, and just that things tend to work out. They always have worked out. Like right now we're in like a bit of a staffing issue, and we've been there before. It works out. We're here again. This will pass. Do you know what I mean? Like just like all these like little things, and that you at the time you get kind of flustered about, but then you realize that it's not, in the whole scheme of things, it's all going to be fine. It's always going to be fine.
I actually think that hearing about your space, and you found such a beautiful space for your store, that was, I think, an awesome.
Yeah. Oh, that's an awesome win. Okay. Oh my God. Especially, that's an awesome win. Thank you for pointing that out. That is an awesome win, especially these days with real estate as they are, and it's so competitive.
Oh yeah.
And this was that was like the easiest part, was for somehow was that Clinton Barb, and I can't think of her name, but she was a wonderful realtor, and she knew that they were going to be closing soon, and so we basically just like went right in. That was a win. Thank you, Michelle.
And I love that you found people who had Saratoga Olive Oil Company in Saratoga is a great store. You go in and taste olive oils, and that they were there and you worked for them. And it's such a great learning experience. And then just being able to then have a discovery room of your own. It's fantastic.
Yes. Okay. I want to re-answer that question, because they are also the win. Thank you for saying all these things. Because without Clint and Barb, we wouldn't be located on located on Broadway. We wouldn't have this big, beautiful store. We wouldn't have the branding that we have today, because thanks to them, they had already established relationships, with people who do all of the jars and the bags and all of that. And they really supported me and this idea right from the beginning. And that made everything very smooth. And so in 2018, they stepped out, and we're like, okay, Hayley, we're going to focus on Saratoga olive oil, and it's time to pass it on to you. And, they'd been a really important part of the initial build out, the beginning phases of tea and honey, but as their business grew, they became more focused on that. And so that was like the biggest blessing, was that partnership to start out. Yeah.
That's amazing. That is, I mean, it's fantastic. It's just kind of paying it forward and just helping someone else kind of, drive and achieve their dream. And then it's just, it's going to be, I'm really interested to see where you go as well and how you influence other people in your community and, helping out. So I think that that's what's so cool about this story is that these business owners are working together to improve the community and just provide more jobs, provide more interesting places to go. That's really a really neat story. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, thanks, Michelle. Well, thank you for helping me get there.
So typically when I kind of close up the interview,
Yeah.
I'd love to hear like words you live by or a mantra you usually kind of say to yourself every day.
Yeah.
Do you have like a saying, a quote or a mantra that you use?
Um, so I think that the one that feels most relevant would be the golden rule, to treat others as you would like to be treated. I think that's because, for all of us here, we're customer facing, and you might be having a bad day, or someone else. You never know what's going on with the person that you're introducing to the store or welcoming to the shop. And I think that that the energy you put out is the energy that you get back. And so I think that sometimes, we all have bad days. On my bad days, I like to remind myself of that. And yeah, and I think we all have the amazing power to turn it around, for ourselves and to turn it around for other people, and to really bring a little bit of joy.
A beautiful way to approach life. And I love that you're providing this kind of healing space for people when they come into, and it's just a very warm, welcoming space. So Hayley, thank you so much for the interview today. This is fantastic. And to the listeners, two things. You can visit Hayley's store online if you're not able to come to Saratoga Springs, and that is Saratoga Tea and Honey.com. And it sounds like you're going to have some really fun stuff for the holidays online. There's always a good stocking stuffer out there. And then also, if you do make it to Saratoga Springs, definitely swing by the store and hit the teabar.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Michelle. It's such a joy.
Thank you, Hayley.
Yeah.
Thank you to our listeners for joining us for today's episode. And thank you to my amazing producer, Emily Flanagan. She deals with all my shenanigans. Julia Augustino, thank you for the amazing composition that you have made for the podcast. And listeners, feel free to check us out on our social media channels. Don't forget to give us a 5-star review. And you can also visit us on FromTheBasementUp.com. Thank you so much.